Hello and welcome to the Stitch Together podcast. My name is Chrissy. I am your host. This is episode 14. The date is the 28th of April 2015 and it's been a while. I'm really out of practice. This is about the fifth take of my intro because I end up doing silly things and forgetting stuff and just basically making a mess of it because it's so long since I recorded. And I'm so grateful to everyone who reached out during my off-air session. People have been concerned and very kind and all the rest of it. It's just been a whole series of adventures. The laptop died and that took quite a lot of time to get that sorted out. I needed new hard drive, etc. Also, both my partner and I have had sort of lurgies and stuff, which hasn't been great. So it's just been one thing after another. And when the computer was finally sorted out last week and I did my show notes and I was all set to record on Friday, which I quite often do anyway. I thought, oh, great, I'll start the new routine. It'll be fantastic. And then I felt rubbish, absolutely rubbish. I just didn't want to record like that because I don't feel I enjoy it as much when I'm in lots of pain, and I don't think you guys probably enjoy it as much because I'm just a bit more miserable. So I decided to put it off until I was feeling a bit better, and this week it's a lot better, and I'm just feeling quite upbeat anyway, I think, because it's my birthday on Thursday and it's my partner's birthday on Thursday as well. We have the same birthday. He also has a twin sister. I think I've probably told you this before. So it's a bit strange because it's my birthday, but I've also got to think of a present for my partner and a present, like sort out a card and things for his sister as well. It's a bit like a mini Christmas. So it's a bit strange really. And it is odd because you think, well, I want to do what I want on my birthday, and he thinks the same thing, and it's like, something wrong here. Maybe one of us ought to shift it a few months and be like the Queen and have two birthdays. Did you know that people in the States, or elsewhere in the world, I should say, making assumptions there? I know people from all over the world watch the podcast because you talk to me. The Queen, the British Queen, is her birthday is celebrate. She has like a private actual birthday, and then she has a state celebration birthday in the nice weather where they have all the parades and things in changing the guards and all sorts of stuff. It's not a public holiday or anything, but that's when the celebrations are. So she has two birthdays, which I think is kind of cool, and I think I should be like the Queen and have two birthdays so I can have my own day where I don't have to share it. Weird how things turn out, isn't it? I think it was one of the things that we first talked about because we met at a mutual friend's birthday party and we just got talking about birthdays and just ended up chatting and saying, oh, this time next year we'll have a joint birthday party. And yeah, by the same time, when it came round to our birthday, we were together at that point. So yeah, it's strange how things work out, isn't it? Anyway, my brother and his family are also coming up at the weekend, and we do have a public holiday this weekend. It's the early spring bank holiday, and it means we get Monday off. And because it's always the first Monday in May and our birthday's on the 30th of April, we always get a long weekend following our birthday, which is fantastic because it means that sort of historically I've had people would come and visit for the long weekend and we'd celebrate the birthday then, and it's always really nice because you sort of, especially if it's the birthday falls during the week and my other half is working on our birthday, it means we can sort of do a celebration at the weekend together, and it's nice. So yeah, we're kind of lucky that way. It works out really well. So yeah, all sorts of things to look forward to this week. So I just thought, feeling kind of upbeat and chatty, going to try and talk to you again and just keep messing it up. So fingers crossed, this will be the final take and I can just talk from start to finish, and I've got everything here and the camera works and the software works and I don't break anything. So fingers crossed. Bear with me though, because I am out of practice. You don't realise, people who don't make podcasts, that there is a certain rhythm and flow to doing these things, and you have sort of setups that you do, and you think about things in a certain way, and you just have habits that you formed as you record more and more. So when you have a gap, you know, a significant gap, you feel like you're starting from the beginning again, and it becomes awkward, like your first episode felt. And it takes a while to sort of get back into the rhythm of it all. So yeah, please be gentle with me. I might make a mess of this. Might be like my first episode. Hope not. Actually, I don't think it was that bad. It wasn't that bad, I don't think. Anyway, moving on. I'd like to say welcome to people who are joining me for the first time. It's very kind of you to try me out, because I know there are an awful lot of really good podcasts out there, and we only have so many hours in the day. And yeah, there seems to be a lot of new interesting podcasts cropping up on YouTube. I think maybe because people are using YouTube more to subscribe to video podcasts, whereas before everyone used to use Blip and iTunes. It's a lot more complicated doing it that way. So I think there are more people who are using YouTube and using it to watch. And the more times you watch on YouTube, you think, well, I can do that. I can upload a video to YouTube. And I think it's made it a little bit more accessible to people. They don't have to worry too much about, you know, embedding videos in blog posts and linking up feeds and all the rest of it. It makes it a lot more straightforward. And I think because it's easier, more people are choosing to have a go. And once they've done it, they have another go and they keep going. So I think, and also the quality of webcams is much better now than it even was just a year ago. And I think that makes a difference, because people are seeing really good quality podcasts, and they know they don't have to have a big investment into getting an expensive camera or an expensive mic like it used to be when I did the audio podcasts. So I think it's more accessible, which means you're getting some really interesting new people doing podcasts. And it's an interesting time to be in the podcasting community. And so, yes, I am grateful that you are choosing me to have a look at. And I totally understand if you don't subscribe and you go off and find somebody else to watch, because we're all individuals, we're all unique, and we all gel with different folk. But thank you for taking the time to give me a go in the first place. And thank you for everybody who has subscribed recently despite my absence. It's very kind of you to take it on faith that I will be back. It's always nice when you get an email telling you that people have subscribed to the video. So thank you for choosing to subscribe and watch again. It's lovely to have a community of regular people who come and watch the podcast and comment on the Ravelry group and who chat on Instagram and things like that. So yeah, I feel that over the last year, because I'm not sure when I first started doing the video podcast, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's probably about a year ago. I feel that there's been a real sort of community developing around the Ravelry board particularly, and also Instagram. So thank you for being part of that and for helping me feel like I'm out in the world even when I'm not physically out in the world. It's a nice feeling knowing that people listen to you, watch you, think about you, and interact, which is the most important. Is actually having people who message you and talk to you on Instagram and Twitter and things like that. It feels good to be part of something bigger than myself and my small little physical world, to be able to sort of reach out and talk to other people who might be in the same situation or completely different one in a totally different society to the one I'm living in, and actually feel that there's a point of commonality where we can intersect, our lives intersect and our interests intersect, and we can talk to each other in a way that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do if we didn't have this love of the fibre world in common. And it's a rather lovely feeling, and it's something that it's only because of the internet that this happens. And it's kind of weird actually, because I suppose it's my birthday coming up and I shall be 42. So I grew up as computing grew up. We had a home PC, the Spectrum ZX81, which was pretty much the first home PC you could get. And I was little. I was under 10. I can't remember. I think I was probably at 7 or 8. And we got in on the ground floor and watched personal computing change, and then the advent of bulletin boards. And now that should take you back. Some of you people are about the same age as me or a bit older. Bulletin boards and dial-up. Can you remember the speeds of dial-up? Hideous. And I've sort of grown up with the internet as more and more stuff has gone online, and the world has changed so much because of this technology. And it's been interesting watching it happen and being part of it happening. And I just wonder where we'll be in another 20 years. Yeah, society's changed a lot since I've been around. And I never thought I would say that. I always thought, I remember when, that you used to get from the older generation. I was like, why do you harp on about it? It's because you can look at it and think, wow, stuff's changed. Anyway, I've been rambling. So let's start talking about the fibre stuff. I suppose in Stuff and Things, I just wanted to mention something that I picked up on the Ravelry group, Ravelry boards, I should say, earlier today. Susan Ashcroft, who is a very talented designer, has decided that for this week, Monday to Friday, sort of ending on the 1st of May, all of her pattern sales, the proceeds will be donated to aid people in Nepal who've been affected by the earthquake. So I just wanted to let you know that that's what's happening. There is a link in the show notes and on my Ravelry group, and which will take you to her designs and you can have a look. She did things like TGV and that nice stitch and Quaker yarn stretcher. In fact, I brought a couple of things down that I've made from her patterns. The first one was this one, which is that nice stitch cowl. And I think that one's a free pattern. The other one, which I have shown you on the podcast, is the Quaker yarn stretcher. And it's just a really interesting design. She does really, really fun things that are quite simple, but very clever. So and she's got a lot of designs out there. There's well over 100 designs that you can choose from. So I recommend you go and have a look. And if you're ever going to buy one of her patterns, do it now. And the proceeds will go to help those in need. And I've also decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to give away 3 of her patterns. So I've opened a thread on the Ravelry group. There's a link in the show notes. And if you want to be the recipient of one of those 3 patterns, go into the thread and let me know which pattern you want, if you should be chosen by the random number generator. And on Friday morning when I get up, probably about, well, not when I get up, but when I'm up and moving around and stuff on Friday morning, I'll lock the thread and pick 3 people randomly and just give them the pattern that they listed. So make sure that the pattern that you put in the thread is the one you actually want if you win. So I just thought that was a way for me to make that kind of contribution. And introduce some people to Susan Ashcroft's patterns because they're great fun to do. I really do recommend them. And like I say, there are a lot, and I'm sure there's something there that you could find that would interest you. So go to the group and have a look. But I will close the thread on Friday morning because she's only giving the sales until Friday, the proceeds from the sales until Friday. So go and have a look. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about in Stuff and Things. The second thing is about the golden skein. Now, I've talked about this before. The golden skein last year did a contest whereby people submitted photos and they were voted on, and the winner of the photo selected would be used as inspiration for the dyers for the spring 2015 quarter. What the golden skein does is they do a quarterly club whereby they get 3 international dyers. They're from all over the world. They're not just British, even though the golden skein is a British company. And they give the same photo to each of those dyers as inspiration and say, dye us some yarn. I think it's pretty much always sock yarn, and it's 100 grams usually from each dyer. And it's a complete surprise what you're going to get in the package. And I've had individual skeins before because I feel I can't shell out that kind of money in advance for something I don't know I'm going to like, because it's not cheap. I think it's 76-ish pounds a quarter, and that's quite a chunk of money for me. And what I've always done in the past is I've waited till the yarns come out, and if there was any left over, I would choose the yarn I liked and just get the individual skein sent to me. It's cheaper to do the subscription version, and if you subscribe, you get the option of getting more skeins if you really like them, and that's open to the subscribers for a certain amount of time, and then it's open to the public. So it's a really interesting idea, and I've always been really envious of those who could kind of afford to put that kind of money into something fun where they didn't know what they were going to get and it was going to be a nice surprise. And yeah, I love the idea of doing clubs. I wish I could do them, but I just don't feel I can justify it to myself, being on a limited budget. I think if I worked, absolutely I would do it. Absolutely, because I think it's great fun and the quality of the yarns is superb. The dyers are superb. It's been fabulous. Kind of thinking about maybe doing one of the quarters because in the future, because there's a couple of pictures that I really love and I was thinking about joining in. Anyway, I won that contest with, let me show you the photo, see if I can show you without it going wappy. It's hard to, that's probably about as good as it's going to get. And it's a butterfly on the buddleia bush in our front garden. We had masses of them. I think it was maybe the year before last. They were just everywhere, butterflies everywhere. And it was just so easy to take lots and lots of photos. And I was really pleased that it won because I think it's an interesting photo and there's a lot of different colours in it which could be taken in different ways. And I got the yarn since the last episode and they are so different from each other. And I've actually opened one of the skeins because it was quite a while ago I got it. This was the first one. I actually used it. It's so pretty, so nice. And I will show you the thing that I made with this, which is a design I'm working on in the next episode because it's just getting ready to be blocked. And at that point, I also wanted to talk about the design process and things in another episode because I thought it'd take a while. So this is the first skein, and this is from, now this is a Swiss dyer. And oh, for heaven's sake, iPad, move around, change direction. Oh, so annoying. It's not playing ball. I think it's Siidegarte is the company. It's Siidegarte, which I think translates as silk garden. And it's Cedar Quirlik is the actual name of the base, and it's 100% silk, and it's a 4-ply weight, fingering weight. And I think, is it a 2 or 3-ply yarn? Yeah, it's a 3-ply yarn, and it's beautiful. All these lovely pinks and purples and a little bit of grey. It's a really, really lovely yarn, so soft, really lovely. And I've actually seen the company before, but I've never wanted to take a risk on it because I never see people I knew hadn't used it, if you see what I mean. It'd never been recommended on a podcast or anything. So I can say good yarn, really good. It's really nice to work with, and I think it's going to block out beautifully. It feels amazing, so nice. So the link to that is, as always, in the show notes. The second one I was really excited about. This is from Berry Colourful Yarnings, and this is a self-striping yarn. It's called Saturated Sock Self-Striping. It's 25% nylon, 75% superwash merino, and there's 463 yards in this skein, which is good yardage. I call it Peacock's Revenge. So obviously these are all the colours from the butterfly's wings, and a flash of the greys from the paving stones, which I really like. I just think it's going to make fantastic whatever. It's so soft. It's really, really soft, springy yarn. You just wouldn't know you'd think it was 100% merino. It's just fabulously soft and bouncy. Really, really lovely yarn. And I really like the colours, the sort of orangey reds and the greys. I think it's really, really nice self-striping. I think I heard that these were quite wide stripes. I won't know until I've balled it up. So I'll let you, well, you'll see when I use it. But I really do like Berry Colourful Yarnings. She has fantastic bases and great colour sense. So I was really pleased that this one was in the batch, so to speak. And the third and final one is, look at how pretty that is. This is from the Knitting Goddess, and she's a UK-based dyer that I've bought from before at shows and things. And she kind of specialises in doing British stuff. So this base is called Brit Sock, and it's 40% British Blueface Leicester, 20% Wensleydale, British Wensleydale, and 20% alpaca, 20% nylon. So it's all British. It's 400 meters from 100 grams. It's a 4-ply, and it is lovely. Because I'd seen Brit Sock before, but I'd not seen it in person. So I was a bit, I don't know, because when it's an unusual blend of fibres, you kind of need to feel it to know what it's going to be like, if you see what I mean. You can make a guess, but until you feel it, you just don't know. And this has got fantastic colours through it. If I can look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Sort of fawn and greys and the blues and the sort of dark blues in there. And it's so soft and smooshy, very lofty yarn. And I think it'd be pretty hard wearing as well, because both Wensleydale and Blueface Leicester are a nice long staple, which means it's going to pill less. Plus you've got a decent amount of nylon in there. So it's just really the alpaca that is likely to sort of pill up a bit, and I don't think it will because of the others. I think it's a really interesting blend, and I'm going to really enjoy knitting with it. In fact, I think this would be soft enough to be a cowl actually. I think it would be fine on my face. So yeah, the three of them together, it was a, oops, if I can show you. It was a real treat to get such different yarns from such different dyers and get to play with them. So thank you everybody who voted for my photo, and I hope that the people who subscribe enjoy their yarn as much as I'm going to. And yeah, I think, oh actually I looked up on the website and all of these are still available and you can still get them, but I would get there, try and get in quickly, because I think they will go pretty fast. But yeah, they're especially, you know what, I like them all equally for completely different reasons. They're such different yarns. Yeah, they're great. So yes, thank you everybody for that, and that was lovely to get a big squishy yarn parcel in the post that I didn't pay for. Thank you. Say thank you to the people who voted for me, as well as to the Golden Skein. Thank you for organising a wonderful prize. It's nice to get goodies in the post that you've not paid for. So I think, oh, the other thing, I did put this in the show notes, it's just reminded me, the Knitting Goddess skein, the dyer, Joy, has a blog as well as her shop, and she wrote a blog post about this yarn and how she determined which colour she was going to use, and I was fascinated by it because she'd seen something in the picture I'd just not seen. So I put a link to the blog post in the show notes, and I think you'll find it quite interesting. Well, I think you will. I think you'll find it interesting. I found it interesting, sort of seeing how a dyer can be inspired by things and work through their process. So yeah, interesting stuff. I've been talking ages. I do apologise, this is going to be a long one. Done and dusted. I finished my mama vertebrae. This is in Manos del Uruguay Maxima, and it is yum. It's a single ply worsted weight yarn, and it's fabulous. Now, what I did last time with a garment like this was I recorded a snippet and inserted it. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to insert a bit with me telling you about the construction here. This cardigan has turned out really, really well. The cardigan is constructed in the same way that the baby vertebrae is, which essentially it's like kind of like a shrug with an elongated back. Essentially it's a cardigan with no fronts really, which I wasn't sure about initially, but I actually, now I've got it, I really love the idea, because what happens with the fronts of the cardigan is so often they just end up getting wedged in your armpits and it's uncomfortable. This is kind of like a really good intermediate garment, particularly for wearing around the house, where you're just a little cold across your shoulders and your arms, and it keeps you warmer than probably a shawl will, because that generally leaves your forearms open. The yarn I used is the Manos del Uruguay Maxima, which is worsted weight, and it's a merino single ply yarn, which means it's going to pill like the devil, but oh my goodness, it's soft. The construction is a raglan, sort of from a top down thing. So what I did was I took the measurements from my underbust, because obviously it's my shoulders and across my back that it needs to fit. So yeah, I use the size closest to the measurements around my underbust, overbust, I should say, and I'm really pleased with how it fits. The only thing I possibly do differently with the construction of this, if I made it again in a similar weight of yarn, is one of the options you can do is when you start the construction, you can do a provisional cast on across the back of your neck. So when it comes to picking up all around the edges to do the ribbed border, you only have to pick up at the sides. You don't have to pick up across the back, which gives it a nice seamless finish, which is lovely and it looks beautiful. However, with quite a heavy weight of yarn like this is, it stretches out a little bit just across the back. If you can, I don't know if you can see, I'll show it close up in the other bit of recording. But essentially, I think it's probably going to stretch out a bit across the back. I think if it continues to do so, what I'll do is do a single chain of crochet where the cast on edge would have been, in between the cast on edge and the border. The border I did was just a 1x1 ribbing, and I cast off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off because I like the way it looks in ribbing. I think it gives it a really nice finish and it's nice and stretchy, it doesn't pull. I did some adjustments on the sleeves. Again, one of the options on the sleeves is you do decreases. You're supposed to knit it in the round, but I ended up getting myself in a knot because I was alternating skeins. And alternating skeins and doing decreases in a small diameter, it got in a mess. The other thing I was conscious of is that my gauge is different in the round and knitting flat. So the body was knit flat, the swatch was knit flat, but the arms were knit in the round. So it would have had quite an obvious change in gauge. And I just thought, oh, stuff it, it's easier if I just seam it, knit these sleeves flat and seam it, and it just made it a lot easier in terms of not getting in a knot with my alternating skeins. I needed to alternate skeins because it was really pooling quite badly, especially in the small circumference of the sleeve. So I just wanted to keep this all over sort of mottled effect, so I alternated skeins throughout. I also did a full length sleeve as opposed to, I think it was a 3/4 sleeve in the pattern, because it's a worsted weight. I knew it would be a warm cardigan that I wanted to wear in cooler weather, so I wanted to make it a full length sleeve because otherwise it kind of defied the object of the garment and I would still be cold because my forearms were showing. I've worn this loads already and I only finished it a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a really, really versatile and useful garment. I think I will probably make another one in a lighter weight and make it short sleeved, probably in a 4-ply, and I'll hopefully get to wear that during the summer because, again, like this, it's useful because you can wear it if you gain weight, if you lose weight, because essentially the measurement across your back doesn't change an awful lot, I don't think, with weight gain. Maybe a 2 or 3 inches if you only lose or gain sort of half a stone or something, you know, 7–10 pounds. So I think it's a good option, certainly for somebody who's trying to lose weight or maybe has gained weight and they're trying to get it off, and people who are pregnant or who are postpartum. Essentially, it's a very useful garment in that respect. So I definitely think I'll make another one. Yeah, I'm also really pleased because this was stash yarn, and it's really good when you use stash yarn that you've had for a few years. It makes you feel really virtuous. And the reason I hadn't used this yarn was I only had 5 skeins of it, and it wasn't enough to make a proper full length garment, and it just sat there because I wanted to use it all in something big, and I didn't want it to just go into a shawl, because I have lots of shawls, but I really wanted this to be a garment. So I was absolutely delighted when I realised that I had enough of this yarn to make this garment. So yeah, really pleased about that. Really good pattern, really well written. Kelly Brooker is so clever, and she writes beautiful patterns, and the fact that you can knit this garment in so many sizes, in so many different weights of yarn, it's unbelievable value, and I know I will knit another one of these. I think I mentioned about the provisional cast on across the back of the neck, so you can see that there's an awful lot of give in that. I'm worried about it stretching across the back, so I'll give it a little while longer, and if it seems to be stretching out too much, I will do a single crochet sort of here along the back of the neck, just to give it a little bit more structure so it doesn't pull out as much. But the sleeves I talked about, see, it's already starting to pill. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see now it's starting to pill. I just did it flat and did a mattress stitch to seam it shut, and that just worked well for me. In fact, it was quite interesting because I was watching Dark Matter Knits today, and she was talking about checking your gauge for when you change the way you're knitting from being in the round to being flat and vice versa, and it just made me laugh because she was talking about it after I've been thinking about it for the podcast. So yes, bear in mind, if you're knitting flat and you changed it in the round, or vice versa, your gauge may change, because with me it certainly does, and I forgot that until I'd done about half a sleeve, and then I had to rip back. I think I spoke about everything else in that little video snippet, so I should put that to one side, but I have worn it an awful lot. It's a really useful garment, and I really recommend the pattern. Kelly Brooker, who wrote the pattern, is very, very clever and very thorough, and she designs lovely things. So yeah, highly recommended. Links in the show notes. Next on my list is the Moab shawl, and this is a very busy monkey design, and it's knit out of some handspun, some of my quite early handspun actually, and the pattern for the shawl has 3 different edgings, or the same sort of edging but done differently, and I chose pattern B because I thought with the nature of handspun, sometimes it's quite hard to see textural patterns, so I chose the one with the eyelets in to make it a bit more obvious. But the fibre is BFL and silk, and it was dyed by Pick Perfect, who is Pick Perfect's Fluff and Stuff. Again, there's a link in the show notes, and it feels amazing. The drape is fantastic. It's, yeah, the colourway is jewels as well. Yeah, the blend is 70% BFL, 30% silk. It's the slinky base, I think, and it's a really nice size, and I really like the design. I've always liked Very Busy Monkey's designs. She does a lot of these shawls that are sort of designed like this, with the kind of elongated half circle shawls, and they sit nicely on your shoulders, I find. But I'm really pleased with that, and yeah, knitting with handspun is so much fun. Speaking of which, I've been doing a swap with Mina of the Knitting Expat podcast, and she's making me a project bag, and I'm sending her some handspun yarn, and I finished that yesterday, and sort of measured it all up and stuff. And I can't show you that because I want it to be a surprise for her. She knows she's getting handspun, she doesn't know what she's getting. So I'm really pleased with it, and hopefully you can watch her podcast and she might show you. I've taken photos anyway, so I'll post photos when she's revealed it on her show. So the next one, just quickly, it's just some socks. I did it for the FO and Dye sock knit along, and the yarn is from when FO and Dye, when it was Ellie's Knit Insanity, and I really love how this yarn has come out. The colourway was Death, and it's a superwash merino nylon blend, and yeah, they're really good socks for when you don't want to have really loud colours on. Really like them. So those were just my normal vanilla sock pattern. And for those who don't knit socks, vanilla sock pattern is generally what people who knit socks call a basic stocking stitch sock, done in the way that they know fits their foot in the style that they like. Essentially, it's a very basic pattern where you know your stitch counts and you can kind of almost do it by memory, rather than a sock pattern that's been written by another designer. It's generally what people have kind of created themselves from various different sources. And this for me is toe up with shaped toes, fish lips kiss heel, shaped calves. I don't know if you can see there at the top, just sort of a little bit of shaping, because these socks go up to sort of just maybe a third of the way up my calves. I like them to be quite long, because when you sit on your scooter, my mobility scooter, to go to the shops, you're sitting down and your trousers hitch up, and if you sat there with your hitched up trousers in a really stiff wind, it's really cold. So I have slightly longer socks to counteract that problem. And I do a nice long ribbed cuff, 2 inches, and then I do Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, because it's very stretchy. And that's my basic vanilla sock. The feet are different lengths, and I can do that because my toes are shaped for left and right, and then my lengths of foot are measured for left and right. So they're very, very tailored to me, these socks. So really pleased with how they turned out. I'm trying to zip through it all because there's quite a lot, because it's a long time since I recorded. This one, I am so proud of this. Really, really love this finished object. I think it's gorgeous. This is, let me sort of get it back here so you can see it properly. There we go. This is the Descent shawl by Lisa Much of Northbound Knitting fame. And the yarn is Countess Ablaze. Surprise, surprise. Look at those rich colours. They're fantastic, aren't they? This red colour, sort of, I don't know, red currant colour, I would call it, was a one of a kind. It was part of the Caesar collection, and it's Tia Merino, which is a single ply merino 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and it's called Rejected the Name Caesar, and that's one of a kind. You won't get that again unless you get it on a D-stash, but I just think that's an amazing colour. So pleased with how it's turned out. It knits up beautifully in garter stitch, this yarn. The second yarn is my absolute favourite yarn in the world. Pretty sure I can say that comfortably. I've used this a few times. It's called Grey Skies in Manchester, and it's the Count Cash Merino high twist base. So it's merino, cashmere, nylon, high twist, and it's this amazing subtly semi-tonal grey colour. It is the perfect neutral and goes with absolutely everything. It's a great yarn, and the base is fantastic as well because it's quite pill resistant for an MCN blend. And I knit this. It'd been in my queue for ages, this shawl, because I wanted to make, I think it's really fun and interesting with all these short rows and stuff. I just think it looks great. And the Caffeinated Knitting podcast, we're doing a Lisa Much Northbound Knitting knit along, so it kind of gave me a kick up the backside to get on with knitting it, and love how it turned out. I mean, the drape on it is fabulous. Look at that. Fabulous. It's a really fun pattern. I really whipped through it. So I highly recommend Descent by Lisa Much. And as always, I highly recommend Countess Blaze Yarns because she's fab. Next on my list, what have I got? It's what I'm wearing. This is a pattern I test knit. It is called Delayed Departure. And actually that's quite good. You can see quite well the lace pattern against my grey shirt. It's by Mina Phillip of the Knitting Expat podcast. And if you've not watched the podcast, I recommend it. She's great fun. She's quite new. And she is British, but she's living in Bahrain. So it's quite interesting from that point of view, because obviously it's a very different part of the world to certainly what I'm used to. But she's really fun. She's really interesting, very lively. She's got a couple of fun cats. She's doing more design work, and yeah, I really enjoy that podcast, and I recommend you go and give it a go. The pattern is very straightforward, simple lace chart. It's charted and it's written out, and it is now available for download, and it's available on Ravelry, and the link is in the show notes. So yeah, it's let me see if the pattern can be blocked straight, or it can be pinned out to be more pointy. I decided to pin it fairly straight, but it has sort of formed into waves. The yarn I used was something I had in stash, sort of left over from another project. It's King Cole Bamboo Cotton DK, and it's a real bargain yarn. It's very bargainous, and it's a lovely soft yarn, and because it's DK, it's quite warm as well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put this aside and give it to somebody. And if my mum's watching, if you want it, let me know. If you don't, if you don't tell me, I'll probably just assume that you didn't see this and give it to you anyway, because it's bamboo cotton and my mum's allergic to lanolin, so she doesn't get as many hand knits gifted to her as we would both like. So really fun pattern, really quick, really easy. Highly recommend it. Go and give it a try. And the podcast. So the rest of the stuff I'm going to show you is spinning. The first one is Baby Llama and Silk, and it's Countess Ablaze, and it's quite an old fibre. I had it, that's kind of the colour, but you can't see the blips there. So you can see the sort of the blips, the green and the pink, and there's a kind of corally colour in there as well. And it's, let me shake it out so you can see it a bit better. It's a worsted weight, and I did it as a true 3-ply, and it's quite dense, but I spun it over the fold, so it's top, which means all the fibres are lined up in the same direction. And what I did was I pulled a chunk off, bent it over my finger with the fibres, the length of the fibres all going sort of across my finger, pinched it at the bottom and drafted out the side. And what that does is puts more air into the fibre, and it sort of pulls it sideways. So it's not all straight and sleek the way that the top is when you buy it. It muddles up the fibres and puts more air into it, makes it lighter and warmer because there is more air in it. It's not as sleek, it's a bit more fuzzy. I don't know if you'll be able to see, probably can't tell. But yeah, it's a bit more fuzzy when you do it that way. But you kind of get the best of both worlds because it's what it's called semi-woolen, where it's prepared as a worsted spun would be, but then it's spun as though it was woolen. So it's kind of a best of both worlds situation. You sort of get more, it's less fluffy, essentially. And it's a quick and easy way of getting a kind of woolen prep. You don't have to do rolags or put it through a drum card or anything. So soft and warm. It's going to be amazing. It's got to be either a hat or a cowl, absolutely, because there's not a lot of it. It's only 104 meters, so probably a cowl. But yeah, it's a fabulous yarn. I'm really pleased with it, especially because I've had that fibre for so long, and I think I'm kind of glad I waited, because I don't think I would have done it justice if I'd spun it this time last year. So really pleased with that. The second thing I've spun, I am so happy with. So happy. This is fondant fibre, and it is 200 grams. What I did was I took one set of rolags in one colourway, which was, the rolags were in the Chloe colourway, and the fuzzlings, which are like little bats, little tiny bits of fluff that have been carded, and that was called Time Traveller. And what I did was I spun them woolen, both of them, sort of did one batch, then did the other batch, and then two-plied them together. And I just, when I saw them on the screen, I just knew they would work together, and I'm so pleased with how they've turned out. And there's one of them has got sparkle in it, so it's not overpoweringly sparkly, but there's a bit of sparkle in it. And I'm just so happy. I've got 223 meters of an Aran weight yarn, and it's so floofy because it's woolen prep, woolen spun, and my goodness, was this fast spin. Look how pretty. So proud of that, and it was so fun to do. I love fondant fibres rolags. They're just prepared beautifully and they spin like a dream. And I'll see if I can show you a bit closer up. Is that going to focus? There we go. So fun. Yeah, I mean, it's got all the sort of thick and thin stuff that you get with woolen spinning, but it's so light, so soft, and really lofty. There's all sorts of different fibres in there. I can't remember off the top of my head what's in there, but the link in the show notes will take you to the page for the project. And that's a little teeny mini skein that was left over from the Chloe Rolag. So I just did a 2-ply sort of on itself using an Andean plier. So it's just a teeny tiny skein, 21 meters of an Aran weight. Look how cute. I'm gonna not gonna focus. No, it's not worth me playing with it because it's taking up time that we've not got. that is the spinning I've finished since the last recording. I have on the go 2 big spinning projects, and I'm not going to talk about them this week because they're big projects and I want to give them enough time to talk about, because it's going to take me several more episodes to get them finished. So I'll talk about that next time. But I have got a couple of things I can talk to you about in Nose to the Grindstone. The 2 projects I'm currently working the most on, the things that absolutely can't stop knitting on. Knitting on. Actually, I'm not knitting on both of them, only knitting on one of them. The other one's a crochet. This bag is fabulous. It's Fondant Fibres, and it's a great big bag. It's the size of my head. It's enormous. And I love her bags. They're fantastic for putting bigger projects in. So I've got loads of them. In fact, I bought a new one this week. I'll show you it next episode. Anyway, what I'm working on is a pattern that I saw when it was first released on the Skein podcast, and it was, the sample was knit up in Skein yarn, which was why it was on that podcast, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. But I knew I couldn't afford a couple of skeins of Skein yarn to be shipped from Australia. Just couldn't afford that. So it was kind of, I'd just been looking for the right yarn, and it's done in DK weight yarn, and it requires 500 meters, I think is the amount. But it was quite a generous amount of yarn required from 2 skeins of yarn, if you see what I mean. A lot of different yarns would require me to get 3 skeins and not use most of the 3rd skein. So I've been looking for quite a while for specifically for some yarn that would work for this, and I finally found it, and I love it. Look at that. This is Knitting Goddess, and the thing that made me think of it, that's the colour. It's walnut, and it is DK, superwash merino and nylon. It's 9% merino, 10% nylon, and it is lovely. It's very bouncy. It's not merino like my Mama Vertebrae merino is. It's more robust than that, and the nylon gives it structure and strength. It's you know it's not going to pill as much as a lot of merinos do. And I love Knitting Goddess's dyeing style, and getting that skein in the Golden Skein batch reminded me that she did great sort of semi-solids, because I wanted it to be a semi-solid colour to show off this pattern, because it's fantastic. It's really beautifully done, and it's a really interesting knit. What it is, it sort of starts from this bit here, and it grows to there, and then it starts to decrease, so it swooshes out to the side, and it's all done with short row shaping, increases and decreases. And this, let me have a look. Yes, this is the right side facing it. This textural panel is really good for, it's really hard to show. There we go. This textural panel is great fun. And it's got little picots on. I've actually changed up this pattern a little bit. I made the picots smaller because the picots were like 5 stitches and I just thought they were too long. I prefer shorter picots, so I did 3 stitches instead. And the stitch pattern took me a while to get my head round, but that's the only bit you need to think about, and it's not that hard. It's just the shaping stuff you need to keep an eye on. And of course I've messed up a couple of times because I've just assumed that I understand what comes next. No, read each stage carefully or you will frog quite a lot of it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this knit. I can't put it down. It's fabulous because you've got all this fun garter stitch stuff, then you just got this end bit where you think about it. I'm alternating skeins, and I'm alternating them at this point because the short row shaping makes it hard to alternate at this end, because the short row shaping is done so that it's wedge shaped here, and obviously it would look messy if I changed at this end. So what I've done is I'm alternating skeins here, and it's not showing. I think it looks good, and I'm alternating every 2 rows. I'm pleased with how it's working out, because as you can see, it's for a semi-solid, it's very semi, less of the solid, and it really did show when I couldn't alternate the short row wedges, because it was at this end when I first started and it just didn't look good. So yeah, there are a couple of things that you really need to look at when you first read the pattern, and as you work through it, you need to read the pattern. You can't just skip ahead and think you understand it because it's simple. And it's simple. You just need to read it so you get it all right when you actually do it. But yeah, really, really enjoying that project. Now, the pattern is called Incentive, and the pattern designer is in Poland, and I can't pronounce her name, and I can't find anywhere that tells you how to pronounce her name, so I'm just going to pronounce it phonetically. It's Hanna Masijuska, and there is a link. And if anyone knows how to pronounce that surname properly, please let me know, because I don't like pronouncing stuff wrong, because it feels like you don't care, and I do care. I want to be able to pronounce it properly, but I couldn't find anywhere online that told me how to pronounce it. But I love the pattern. I love her designs, actually. I think they're really interesting, and I'm having great fun with it. So hopefully by the time I record next, that'll be an FO, and I'll be able to show you what it looks like when it's done and all blocked out and beautiful. The other project I've been working on is crochet, and it's something that I'm completely winging. It is a blanket for my niece. Let me show you the right side. I'm just doing it in a very simple, straightforward, I can never remember which the US terms and the UK terms are. I think the US term is double crochet and the UK term is half treble. It's the one I automatically default to. I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. It's Rico Baby Classic DK, which is 50% acrylic, 50% polyamide. So it's one of my go-to baby yarns because it's machine washable. Pretty sure you can tumble dry it as well, and it's lovely and soft. You'd never go, oh, that's acrylic. You just wouldn't think that. And it's got some really nice colours, and I like their colours because they're really bright and vibrant, so they're good for kids. But this is for my niece, who has basically told us she likes pink, so she's getting pink. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing a centre square, so I'm probably going to try and do the stripes as tall as it is wide, and then I plan to pick up, well, not pick up, but go around the edges doing a crocheted edging. And I actually started out with different colours to this. I actually started out with a totally different pattern, actually. It was the corner to corner crochet throw. It's a free one, and I really liked it. But when I put this swatch in the washing machine, and this colour here, that's white. Not anymore, it's not. It's kind of a really, really pale pink because the dark red bled a bit. So what I decided to do was I bought powder pink instead, and what I'll do is do the border in this lovely deep purple colour. You can't really, it's not as blue as I can't show you properly. It's really difficult. It's not being picked up on the camera, sadly, but the colours are powder pink, dusky rose and mauve. And I just really like the way it's crocheting up. It's really fun. I'm weaving in the ends as I go, obviously because I'm striping. And yeah, I like the gauge as well. I'm doing it on a 4mm crochet hook. And I'll show you the crochet hook that I'm using because it's a little different. I started crocheting with these. They are, you're going to focus. They're Addy Swing. There we go. And each of the crochet hooks, they have a metal hook which are sized, obviously, the proper correct sort of measurement. And then they all have these lovely ergonomic handles where you can push your thumb in there, you can rest it in the way that feels right to you. I like it a lot. And it's just easier on your hands because I started getting these because when I was doing crochet toys, you've got to do it at a really small gauge. And a metal hook is better because it's easier to slide into the stitches. It's just better than plastic or bamboo. So metal hooks are better for working at small gauge. But it was really hard on my hands because obviously it's just a straight metal hook, and it just was really getting quite uncomfortable doing any for any period of time. So I got these Addy Swing hooks and they made a world of a difference. So I started collecting them when I needed them. The only problem is, of course, that they're huge and they don't fit standard hook cases. That's the only problem. Other than that, they're great. So I do recommend these. And the other thing I've done is when I put my crochet away, I put one of these lockable stitch markers in the live stitch, little clover lockable stitch marker, so it doesn't all unravel in the bag because the hook always comes off. But I'm just winging that, and I'll use a crochet stitch dictionary to find a border that'll go on and look nice. So that's going to be for her birthday in June, hopefully. So got fluff in my mouth. I shall have to hide that away next weekend while she's here. So I want it to be a surprise for her. I found out last week that my mum follows me on Instagram. I don't think she follows anyone else, just follows me to look at what I'm posting. And she sometimes shows my Instagram feeds to my niece. So I had to warn her not to show her anything recently because that's been posted. Because apparently she really likes looking at the stuff that Auntie Chrissy's made. She's quite a sentimental little thing, but she thinks they're pretty, so that's good. Right, where are we? She's leaning forward and looming into the camera. I've got a few things to talk about in... I'm going to skip Splashed Out because we're getting on a bit time-wise. But what I am going to talk about is my birthday present. Yes, I have my birthday present already, but that is because I did the ordering of said birthday present, because my partner never knows what to get me. I just basically say, I want this, and give him a link. Or if it's buying something via PayPal, I pay it and he pays me back. So I've actually paid for my birthday present as well, but he's going to pay me back. He always does. He just needs reminding. Anyway, the gift that I chose this year is this. Isn't it fabulous? And you're probably going, what the heck is that, Chrissy? Look at the lovely work. This is a Spanish peacock support spindle plying stand. Now, the idea is that these felt lined holes and loops, rests, you rest the spindle in each of these and it lies across, and it's basically like a lazy Kate for spindles. So you pop the full spindle in there and you can have 2 full spindles at a time and you can ply off them, or you can just wind off onto a plying ball, whatever you want to do. I actually, have I? Yes, the yarn that I've made for Mina, I applied directly off my spindles using this, and it went brilliantly. I was really pleased with it because the felt, as well as protecting the wood, actually provides a little bit of friction. When I put my support spindles in the plastic basket that I've got for the purpose, I rest them in the plastic basket through the holes and it just comes off that. There's no friction, it just zooms off, which is why I then used to wind it off onto a plying ball to give that element of friction for plying. So these actually do the job really well. They protect the wood and they provide friction. And when I got this stand, I thought there was something wrong, and I actually messaged Mike at Spanish Peacock and said, there's something wrong, it's all off whack. He said, no, it's supposed to be like that. And then I read the instructions and I went, yeah, you're right, it is supposed to be like that. It even tells me that it's supposed to be like that. And I just hadn't read it properly because I had a headache. Anyway, this is fantastic. It fills such a niche that has been missing for so long in the community. It's beautifully done. Can you see those seagulls are cutouts? It's beautifully made with this plywood. I think he's actually developing one on perspex, which I think will be interesting, but I like wood. It's got rubber feet so it don't slide around, keeps it even. It'll be good because we've got hardwood floors. It'll keep it in one place and it'll prevent it from scratching the floor as you pull on it. What you do is, hang on, get it the right way around. You've got to the what do you call these? The sides, they are under tension. You can see they don't line up straight. The holes, they're kind of offset, so you have to put the sides under tension and put it in the slot. And you've got, you can see the slots are offset, they're slightly angled, so you have to put it under tension, and that holds them in place much more stably than if they were lined up directly. And I just really like the way it's been done, sort of laser etching. Isn't that a beautiful image? It's just been so beautifully well thought out. And when I saw it online, I just really wanted to have one because I kind of need something like this. I need this particular tool, and the fact that it's a very, very beautiful tool just sold me on it. So that's my birthday present from my partner. And yeah, absolutely delighted with it. It's going to get a lot of years of use, I think. A lot of braids of yarn, braids of fibre will become skeins of yarn using this equipment. So yeah, recommend that. Spanish Peacock, fantastic. Their spindles are amazing. Their product development is second to none. I really like it. I've got quite a few of their spindles, and I used to bemoan the fact you couldn't get them on update. And I've since found that quite often they come up on Facebook before they come up on the website. So quite often, if Mike's busy, he's under pressure, he just takes a photo of all the spindles he's worked on and numbers them, and you can message him and say, I want number 6, number 2, number 1, and buy it on Facebook that way, rather than it coming officially onto the website if he hasn't got time to do all the photographs and all the details and stuff. So I recommend, if you're interested in a Spanish Peacock spindle, is you follow him on Facebook. That's my tip. Follow him on Facebook, Spanish Peacock, because his stuff is really, really good. So I think that's it for Toolbox. Gift box, I suppose. I was going to talk about a book that I bought that I posted on Instagram, but we're running long. So again, I shall do that next episode. I shall have lots of things to talk about next episode. I'll have to record quickly. Actually, it probably won't be till the end of next week. that I record because it'll take me a while to recover from the kids visiting, because I intend to actually sit upright and play with them rather than lie on the sofa and go, leave Auntie Chrissy alone, she's poorly, which is sometimes what could happen if we travelled up there rather than them travelling down here. What I did want to do was say a very, very big thank you to the online community, because this quarter I received payments from both Craftsy and Amazon through the affiliate program, and that's where people have used my links on my blog, my website, to when they purchase things on Craftsy or purchase things on Amazon, a percentage of the sales that they receive after clicking through the link, they'll pay to me depending on what the goods are that they're buying and the price of them, etc. And it's the first time I've received payment for either of those things since I set up the affiliate links about 18 months ago, something like that. And it was so lovely to receive that payment, because it means that I can use that money for sending out postage on things like the Random Rummage Craft Along was about £12–15 of postage. So that would normally come out of my pocket. And being able to say, well, that money has come in from the affiliate programs and that money can be used to pay for postage or for prizes in the future, or it just gives me a little bit of a cushion in which to sort of say, well, I could spend a little bit on the podcast. You know, it's not business. I don't do it for profit. Just flat out, don't do this for profit of any kind. Don't ever feel that I'm asking you for money, but thank you for using the affiliate link, the people who have done so and also made a donation directly. Thank you. You know who you are. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated, and it means I can keep sending stuff out. So further to that, I have a little giveaway to do. It's a yarn giveaway. Now, this is yarn from a Finnish dyer, Lenitium X Machina, and they're on Etsy, and they have amazing colorways in a variety of bases. And this, actually, let me show you the thing, see if it'll, that's really small. The link's in the show notes anyway. That's the, you see it a bit easier there. But they do really, really interesting colorways. And I decided I was going to take a punt on it and bought this. Well, not this exact skein. I bought one skein, but I got two, and I shall explain why. This is basic sock. It's 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon, and the colorway is Urban Sprawl. And I got this because I thought it was a fantastic neutral. Go with anything. And it is, it's, when I bought it to be a sock yarn, a nice neutral sock yarn that isn't garish, because most of my socks are garish. It's one of the reasons why I got this yarn. So it's not garish. It's funky, but it's not garish. And when I got it, I thought, well, actually, I could probably use this to make a hat or a cowl or something, because it's really quite soft. I wasn't expecting it to be this soft. But I got two skeins of this because the first skein got lost. And the dyer very, very kindly, incredibly kindly, sent me another skein. And about 2 weeks after this, one of the sort of second one arrived, the first one arrived. What happened is Finland is in the EU, and as such, we don't pay customs charges on purchases made in the EU. So it shouldn't have gone to customs, but it did. And they tried to charge me, because, well, basically you get a thing through the door saying there is something to pay on the parcel. It doesn't tell you where it's from or anything, just says if you want to receive a parcel, God, I can't believe I just did air quotes, please. I apologize. if you want to receive a generic parcel, you need to pay X amount of money to get it delivered to you. You don't know what it is. So I paid the money. They said there was postage to pay and there was the customs charge. So it was like £15 or something for a skein of sock yarn. I would never pay that on top of what it actually cost to buy the thing. I was really annoyed. So when it arrived, I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, it should never have gone to customs. And there's plenty of postage on that. So I had to take photos of it and send them to the post office, Royal Mail, and say, hang on a minute, you got this completely wrong. And I think what happened is they didn't recognise the stamps. They didn't realise that it was from Finland. Yeah, didn't read properly. So it got lost in the system for weeks. So I talked to the dyer at Linitium Ex Machina, and the sort of compromise we came up with is that I would give this away to you guys. So if you want to win this lovely skein of sock yarn, 460 yards, 420 meters, and it's 100 grams. And it really is, it feels like it'd be a very hard wearing sock yarn, but also it's nice and smooth. It's not soft, but it's smooth, which is what you want if you're having it up against your skin. So if you want to win this skein of yarn, go to the thread on the Ravelry group and tell me which colourway you like best on the Etsy store, and there'll be a link in the thread to take you to the Etsy store. And I shall keep this open until Thursday the 14th of May, because hopefully I'll be recording on the 15th, if all goes to plan. I don't know, but essentially giving you a couple of weeks to enter and watch this to know that you need to enter. And I'll just do a random number generator and let you know the podcast episode after that who won it. And yeah, I hope you go and have a look at this website, because they're not a big name dyer, but they're really interesting, do some really good stuff, and I'll definitely be buying from there again, because postage from Finland's quite low. You'd be surprised if you're in the EU. They have very good postal service apparently. So yeah, and on that note, I think we'll call it a day, because I've been rabbiting on for ages as usual, but hopefully I won't wait as long until recording again next time. Now the computer's working again and everything, it should be fairly straightforward to do this again without it being too much of a problem. So as always, I promise I will record when I can. Don't know how often that will be, but it'll be on iTunes, it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on the website, it'll be linked, it'll be shown in the Ravelry group, and I generally post on Instagram and Twitter when an episode has gone up. So you should be able to find out when it's coming out. You shouldn't have to guess too often. So thank you for spending your very valuable time with me. It's been lovely catching up, or catching you up I should say, because I haven't heard about you at all, what you're doing at the moment. So come across to the Ravelry group, come and tell me what you're doing, join in the general chit chat thread. It'd be lovely to have a natter with you people. There's generally stuff going on in the chat thread, so if you want to come and join in, that'd be lovely. At the moment, one of the group members has posted a couple of photos of her baby goats. They're so sweet. So if you want to see pictures of baby goats, my Ravelry group is the place to come. There you go, you heard it here first. So yeah, it's been good chatting with you. Thank you for coming back and spending your time with me, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.